Okay, this next problem uses not sample means, uses sample percentages versus population percentages. It's on bottom of page 308, problem number 49. Number 49, bottom of 308. All right, it says, according to the Census Bureau, 73.2% of workers 16 years or older drive alone in their cars to work. After instituting a carpool program, the city finds in a survey of 300 workers that 67% of them drive alone. The city manager wants to see if the city percentage of workers driving alone is less than the national average. All right, so first question A, what is the city manager's null hypothesis? Well, let's write up this hypothesis test. All right, so the null hypothesis is the number the Census Bureau gets across the country. They say 73.2% drive alone. So I'm going to put pi, capital Pi, equals 73.2%. All right, so being a percentage problem, proportion problem, we use the Greek letter pi. And technically, if you were using decimals, you would probably use the lowercase pi, and for percentages, use the capital version of pi. All right, so now what does pi represent? It doesn't represent the national average. Okay, that's what I want you to see. The pi does not represent the census number. It represents the population percentage for the city. And what we're saying with the null hypothesis is that the population percentage for the city is no different than what the Census Bureau got for the country. And so, in plainer English, the cities drive alone percentage is same as the countries. All right, so we're not measuring the 73.2% at all. That's already established. That's our status quo number that we're comparing the city to. But pi represents the population percentage for the city. And we're saying, okay, well, the null hypothesis is that it's no different than the country. Now, we have a reason to believe that it's actually less, because a sample was taken and they found that 67% in the city drive alone. So the alternative is less than, not 67%, but 73.2%. In other words, the city's rate is less. Well, less than the national percentage rate of driving alone, which presumably would probably be a good thing, right? Fewer people driving alone, more people carpooling, translates into fewer people on the road, lower pollution, all good stuff. All right, so city manager wants to see if the city percentage of workers driving alone is less than national average. Now, probably if he's a typical city manager, he's also a politician, and he's just going to trumpet the fact that it's less. All right. But if you're going to really use statistics, then we have to do what I'm going to do next, which is to perform a hypothesis test. Okay, well, the hypothesis test on a percentage is found in your book. And where is this? On top of page 297, testing a population proportion. Now I'm going to write my version of this, and it's pretty important to pay attention here, because the book formula assumes that you're working in decimal form, not in percentage form. And of course, there's nothing wrong with the book formula. However, if you're working with percentages, you need to use my formula, all right, which has a different number in it. So, okay, oops, dropped my calculator. Z star, I call it Z star because we're calculating the Z score, is capital P minus pi, and it's divided by the square root of pi parentheses 100 minus pi, all divided by n. Now, that's the number that's different from the textbook, because if you're measuring percentages, you want 100% there, not 1 as a decimal number, but 100%. So be careful about that, how you use that. Now, let me write the numbers in. The sample showed that 67%, let me separate that off, 67% of the city is driving alone, and the sample size was 300, n equals 300. So if I plug this in here, I have parentheses 67 minus 73.2 divided by square root of 73.2 times, what would that be, 26.8 divided by 300. So the 26.8 comes from 100 minus 73.2. All right, I'll need to get my calculator. There we go. And let's see what we get. So, well, I'm going to calculate the bottom first. Take 73.2 times 26.8 divided by 300. I hit equal. I take the square root of that, hit equal. And now I'm going to take the top, parentheses 67 minus 73.2, close parentheses, divided by the answer. And I get minus z star is equal to minus 2.42. Alright, so z-scores are always rounded off to 2 decimal places. That looks like a fairly close call to me. So let's go to the book. This will be page 649, I think. And see what the book says. The chart. So percentages always use the standard normal distribution chart. And for technical reasons. And the sample means, like the problem I did previous to this one, always use the t-scores. Students' t-distribution. Alright, so page 649, and we look for the area or probability associated with 2.42. So I go down the left-hand column, down to 2.4. I go across to 0.02, which would be the third column in the black and white. And I see 0.0078. That's the p-value. So p-value is 0.0078.